what I love about Wagner is what Dave and Benny, they talk about is it's very practical. I can't tell you how it's just lined up with what God is doing in our church and moving towards a fivefold ministry and just what God has been shifting us into, just the classes and what we're reading, things that you might not intentionally do because you're busy in life. You're like, well, where do I go? What resources? Who do I listen to? And so what I love is that it's just been spot on, right where we've been at every step of the way. And it's, for me, it's forcing me to think about things like we were talking about how to develop an apostolic, we're in the master's program, by the way. We had to develop like an apostolic model. How would you implement it in your church? And we were right in the middle of God saying, you have to lay everything down in leadership. I'm going to do something new and you haven't seen it before. And so we're like, okay. And so now we're reading this material and we're being challenged. And so I'm like, what do I do? And so God just started speaking to me about developing something for our intercessors so that we could really bring intercession into a place of honor. Because I feel like sometimes it's, it's down in the basement. It's the, what else do you do? Okay, pray. Sometimes it's been a mentality in the church, and not that I feel that way, but just elevating and giving intercessors a platform of, like what you bring is critical to what God is establishing and doing in the body of Christ, and recognizing the different types of intercessors. They're not all the same. And so this class, has made me sit with the Lord and go, what am I supposed to do? What does this look like, Lord? So very practical in that sense. I know that when we went through Vanguard, it was an education, it was a 4-year thing. It was great, but it didn't teach you how do you pray with somebody who's suicidal? How do you deal with a family that's dealt with suicide? How do you do deliverance? And God has been faithful and helped us through the years, but gosh, it would be great to be in a place, in a setting where people have actually done that and they actually impart to you. And that's one of the things that we're looking forward to. I know in the next section we're doing healing, and then we're going to have a section on deliverance. And I'm like really interested to see what other people are doing, because I know what God has done with us and what He's taught us. So and then hearing from other students. And it's not, I'll be honest with you, when I graduated from school, I'm like, I don't want to ever, it was fun. I was a great student. I had a great time. It was great. But I didn't want to go back, honestly, to do that. The only thing I want to go back was take an art class. Okay, so for me to be in this is for me to be experiencing like life and success and gaining from it. It's because it's very practical for me. It hits home. I'm not doing this peripheral stuff that doesn't really pertain to where I'm going with the Lord. And so that's what I love about it.
Yeah, if you sit in last Wild Now's session the last 2 days and you're hearing about like this whole new paradigm and wineskin that God has downloaded to the body of Christ. And it's like, well, how do you get from where you're at here to begin to try to even think about implementing that? And what I would say to you is that, like, the first course that we took was on the apostolic, and then the prophetic, or the fivefold ministry, and then the prophetic, the first 3 courses. And like my wife said, like, we're on this journey of transformation. We've taken our whole leadership structure in our church, and we're actually taking the old wineskin and setting it aside, and we're beginning to press toward a whole new wineskin. And what Wagner has done for us is, as we've been walking through these courses, the discussion questions every week are stimulating, thought in terms of how you're applying it in your own context, and especially the second course, the fivefold ministry course. The requirement at the end is to write basically a paper on how you're going to basically implement a fivefold ministry strategy in your church, and from structure and leadership and HR, human resources. And seriously, I started the paper and I got about halfway through, and then I was at a point where I couldn't finish it because I didn't have like the revelation about how we were going to kind of walk through this transition, because what God's spoken to us is that He's going to give us a structure to have a fivefold, 7 mountain type of structure to oversee the church. And he said it's never been done before. So like this process of going through these courses have given us the resources. And so literally, I just finally finished that paper and turned it in. But it was 2 months late. But those 2 months were actually the time frame that God actually gave me massive downloads. He was waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning once a week, and I'd wake up and suddenly he was giving me all this revelation. And so literally everything that I put into